Some great examples of usage. Alabama used the surveys inside the app to get some more feedback from their students. Among other questions, they asked how students figure out what schedule, what games are coming up, and overwhelmingly, the actual Crimson Tide Rewards app and RollTide.com were the winners on that, which was pretty interesting. The Western Sydney Wanderers, which is a soccer football club in Sydney, Australia, they use the microsurveys to do surveys for a very limited amount of time. So just during their actual match, they'll do a survey for man of the match for just those first couple hours for people to nominate who is playing the best, and then they give away. They announce that, and they also give away a prize to the person. To one fan that filled out the poll. So there's a lot of great ways to use microsurveys. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how to set them up. So you'll find microsurveys in the main menu on the side here, microsurveys. And then when you click in there, you'll start by seeing some charts and graphs of what surveys have been answered right now. This is just a demo account here. And a list of all the different surveys that you have set up. The surveys, if you click on them, will take you to the list of actual questions, and you'll get even more statistics about how they were answered or how often they were answered. And then you can click in on any of them and view the responses, the actual responses, which we chart over time here. So you can see people's responses to each of your questions. This is just a demo account, but you'll actually see each individual person and what they responded and when they responded. And all of this can be downloaded, which is awesome. So now we'll just talk a little bit about actually setting up a microsurvey. So when you get to this screen, you can see the other surveys that have been set up. If you go to make a new microsurvey, you'll be taken to this form here. So survey questions are all grouped under a microsurvey. Basically, this holds all of the questions. So you can have different groupings, maybe one about demographics, maybe one about food service, one about their in-app experience. You can group them up into different surveys. So I would start by giving this some type of name that's really just for you. So it could be an app survey. And then a default number of points per question, just so you don't have to enter it on every single question. And then, of course, just an easy, is this active or not? And then a microsurvey start date and end date. So you can schedule these as small as the couple of hours during your game to find out how people's experience is, or the entire month and you want to gather some larger amounts of data. That's where you could do that. If this is set to no, then it doesn't matter what time you have on here, it won't actually show up. And then description, this is just what's going to go in the survey. In the survey download files. So you can add something there that would be useful. And then response boost. So this should be used with great care, but when it's turned on, it will show the question pretty much immediately after the person opens up the app. It'll pop up in their face. This is great for things that you don't have much time for, like the man of the match, and you want people to see the survey right away. It is not great for questions that can wait because they end up popping up in the front of the person's face constantly instead of at an interval. So what we usually do with this off is we'll show a question every few minutes or every couple of days. It really just depends. We kind of spread it out. It depends on how often the person is using the app, but it's more natural and not in your face. With Response Boost on, you will get the question popped up no matter what right away. Again, it's great if you're asking one question during a game and you only have a couple hours and you want to make sure every time somebody opens the app they get the question, so you turn that on. Once you've created the survey, you'll get a listing kind of like this. So you'll have no questions, but let's pretend there are already a couple of questions. So if you notice, each question is listed here. So let's go through the process of actually adding a question to your survey. So when you do new question, it'll take you to this form here. And we have free text, which is kind of useful if you're trying to get some more, some open responses. Multiple choice is obviously much better because you can actually put some stats around that a little bit easier. And then ratings. Ratings is the star reviews, 1 to 5 stars that people can use. So let's do a multiple choice. So it's pretty simple. Text is the actual question. So you type in the question there. You want to keep them short. This is mostly mobile, so keep it short. Is this question active or not? Again, there's a thing to kind of trump that. And then how many points would be awarded for this? So it's going to put in the default amount of points. If for some reason this particular question you want to be worth more points, go for it. And the way to figure out how many points a question should be worth is kind of think about how intrusive it is or how private that information is. So if it's if you really want an answer for it. So if it's something, if you're asking a lot of somebody to answer this particular question, you might want to up the points. And then the target is not a section you need to worry about. But then we have some user restrictions. So this is kind of cool. You can actually make sure that this question is only shown to people that have a particular tag, which is great. So if you want to make a survey and you want to tweak some of the questions so that they only get shown to students, that's how you do it. You can restrict it to just a tag. Or I can also restrict it by membership level. So I can ask only people of the gold level these particular questions. Or a more likely scenario, I might ask everybody who's in the standard level, which means they just entered and they haven't achieved any status. I might ask them some questions. And again, you might ask completely different questions to people of different levels and different tags. And so we have that capability in here. And then, of course, you have the actual responses, which you can add in here. So that could be a list of all the players' names for them to pick who their favorite is, or it could be a list of different food items that you have to have them select what's their favorite. But that is how you add a question to microsurveys. And then once you have all your questions in there, you will get all of these results here, and you'll see all the questions here. And you can drag and drop if you want to change the order of any of those questions, and that'll change the order in which they are displayed to the fans. And then in the end, you will see stats here over time to see how many questions are being answered and what kind of responses you're getting. And and if you ever want to see the actual responses and the questions, you simply pick the one that you're looking for. Let's say food and beverage, and do view questions. And I will see this, and I can download the responses. So this download button will give you the answers from all of these in one file. But there's also the ability to look at a particular question and download just the answers to that question.